Larry McClellan, a 72-year-old Vietnam veteran, stood in the middle of his bathroom, staring at a jagged hole where the toilet used to be. Sewage water bubbled through the cracked concrete, the stench thick enough to choke. His lungs already weakened from years of exposure in the service, he covered his mouth with a rag. Two HOA board members in crisp suits peeked inside, grimacing as if they were the ones suffering. Larry's voice was sharp, breaking the silence. "This is your responsibility. Your trees did this." But the HOA president, dressed in her pink blazer, only smirked and turned away. "Not our problem, Mr. McClellan. Fix your plumbing." And just like that, she walked out, leaving him alone in the stink of betrayal. Weeks earlier, Larry had discovered the source. Massive roots from HOA-planted trees had invaded his sewer line, rupturing the pipes beneath his home. Water backed up until the bathroom floor gave way. For a man living on a fixed income and struggling with his health, it was a nightmare he couldn't afford. He called the HOA office day after day, coughing through the fumes, begging them to honor their duty to maintain those trees. Each time, the answer was the same. "That's inside your home, not our concern." Larry knew better. He had served his country, and now, in his twilight years, he was being forced to serve a punishment he never earned, all because a board in designer clothes refused to lift a finger.
Determined, Larry dragged himself to the monthly HOA meeting, clutching the violation letter like a weapon. The room smelled of coffee and perfume, nothing like the sewage stench he lived with. When his turn came, he rose slowly, voice trembling but firm. "Your trees destroyed my sewer line. I need help. Now." The president in the pink blazer leaned back, eyes cold. "Your plumbing? Your problem." A murmur rippled through the room, neighbors shifting uncomfortably. One elderly man whispered, "He's a veteran, we owe him better." But no one spoke up loud enough. Larry sat down, hands shaking, realizing the people sworn to protect their community were willing to watch him drown in his own misery. Back at home, the reality hit harder each day. The smell of rot clung to his walls, buckets cut water dripping from broken pipes, and the gaping hole in his bathroom mocked him. He'd tried patching it with plywood only to collapse on the floor from fumes while hammering it in. When the property manager stopped by, Larry confronted him with what strength he had left. "Would you let your father live like this?" The manager shifted uncomfortably, muttered something about policy, and left. The house that had once been his sanctuary had become a battlefield, and the enemy wasn't foreign. It was the very people who claimed to manage his neighborhood.
One night, Larry's knees buckled as he tried to mop sewage water creeping across the tiles. His chest tightened, breath ragged, and he hit the ground hard. Sirens wailed minutes later, EMTs rushing through his front door to lift his frail frame onto a stretcher. From the street, he could see HOA board members watching, arms folded, whispering as neighbors gathered. One of them muttered, "It's not our issue. He should have planned better." Rage boiled in Larry's chest, even as the oxygen mask covered his face. That night, in the hospital, he made a silent vow. If he could survive battlefields overseas, he would survive this war at home. And this time, the HOA wouldn't walk away unscathed. Larry came home from the hospital with an oxygen tank and a fire burning in his chest. He shuffled across the ruined bathroom, every step a reminder of betrayal. His daughter, Melissa, had flown in, tears streaming as she surveyed the wreckage. "Dad, this is unlivable." But Larry clenched his jaw. "I didn't fight in Vietnam just to surrender to an HOA board in pink jackets." That night, Melissa set up her phone and recorded every dripping pipe, every crack, every nauseating smell. Larry's face filled the frame, sunken but defiant. The video went viral within days. Thousands commented, "Shame on this HOA." The battle had moved beyond his neighborhood. Larry was no longer just a homeowner. He was becoming a symbol of resistance. The HOA board panicked as the video hit 100,000 views. Neighbors whispered at mailboxes, reporters parked vans near the entrance, and suddenly the pink blazer president was drowning in emails. Yet instead of offering help, the board doubled down. A certified letter landed in Larry's mailbox. Failure to maintain your property is a violation. Additional fines, $2,500. Melissa read it aloud, shaking with fury. Larry stared at the words, then slammed the letter on the table. They're not just negligent, they're predators. The rehook tightened. This wasn't about repairs anymore. It was about power, and Larry was determined to strip it away. At the next HOA meeting, Larry arrived with Melissa filming live on Facebook. The room was tense. Neighbors leaned in as Larry stood, his voice gravelly but unshaken. "Your tree roots destroyed my home. Your neglect almost killed me. And now you fine me for surviving?" Gasps echoed. The president in her pink blazer slammed her gavel. "Order! You cannot weaponize your misfortune against this board." Larry shot back. "Misfortune? This is fraud and cruelty wrapped in pink fabric." The room erupted, half the neighbors cheering, the other half whispering nervously about lawsuits. For the first time, the HOA president's smile faltered. The confrontation had become public, and it was recorded for the world. The next morning, Melissa showed her father an email from a whistleblower. The HOA treasurer had uncovered suspicious bookkeeping. Tens of thousands of dollars marked for maintenance reserves had vanished. The same people refusing to fix Larry's pipes had been lining their pockets. Larry's weary eyes brightened with fresh fire. So that's why they stonewalled me. They're hiding theft. Another rehook landed. This wasn't just about one broken bathroom. It was a web of corruption. The pink blazer wasn't just negligent, she was dirty. The fight had transformed from a personal vendetta into a crusade for the entire community. By the end of the week, local news anchors were at Larry's lawn, cameras capturing the boarded-up bathroom window and the veteran's oxygen tank. Melissa spoke firmly into the microphone. They ignored him, they fined him, and they nearly killed him, but we found proof of stolen funds, and we're not stopping. Across town, the HOA board huddled in panic, the president clutching her pink blazer tighter, whispering about damage control. Neighbors who once feared the board now crossed the street to shake Larry's hand. For the first time in years, the veteran felt the tide turning. The fight for justice was no longer his alone. It was everyone's.
The HOA president strutted into the emergency board meeting in her trademark pink blazer, flanked by two attorneys. She tried to spin the narrative. These accusations are baseless. Mr. McClellan's home issues are private matters. But Melissa slammed down copies of the treasurer's leaked documents. The numbers didn't lie. Maintenance funds had been siphoned off for consulting fees and event planning. Neighbors gasped. One man shouted, "That's our money!" The president's face flushed, her smile stiff. She reached for her gavel, but Larry's raspy voice cut through the room. "I fought in jungles half a world away. You think I can't fight corruption in my own backyard?" The walls of her control were cracking. The neighborhood fractured overnight. Some feared lawsuits and property value collapse. Others rallied behind Larry, hanging "Justice for the Vet" signs in their windows. Betty Thompson, who'd once been too scared to speak, knocked on Larry's door with homemade cookies. "You're not alone anymore, Larry," she whispered, tears in her eyes. But across the street, loyalists to the president muttered about troublemakers ruining the community. The confrontation had shifted from boardroom politics to a full-blown civil war between neighbors. Melissa filmed every moment, posting updates that drew tens of thousands of views. And each new follower meant more eyes on the HOA's lies. The president could feel her empire slipping, one pink thread at a time. Pressure mounted when a state investigator arrived, tipped off by Melissa's viral videos and the leaked documents. Clipboard in hand, he toured the property, noting the ruptured sewer line and the makeshift repairs Larry had paid for himself. "This should have been addressed by the HOA years ago," he muttered. Cameras caught the president cornering him in the parking lot, hissing through clenched teeth, "We'll handle this internally." He shook his head, replying firmly, "Not anymore." That single exchange, caught on a neighbor's phone, spread like wildfire online. The twist had landed.
The HOA's dirty laundry was now in state hands, and their pink-clad president couldn't hide the stains. At the next public meeting, Larry's daughter projected the investigators' preliminary findings: financial mismanagement, dereliction of duty, possible fraud. The HOA president adjusted her pink blazer, but the color now looked less like authority and more like a costume. "These are exaggerated," she barked, slamming the table. Larry leaned forward, his voice low but steady. "You left me with a hole in my bathroom floor while you stole from your neighbors. That's not leadership, that's theft." The room erupted in shouts, half demanding her resignation, others begging for calm. For the first time, the president didn't gavel the noise down. She just stared at the ground, trembling.
Larry struggled to stand, but with Melissa's help, he faced the entire room. His oxygen tank hissed softly as he spoke. "I never asked for special treatment. I asked for fairness. I defended this country so people could live in peace, not be extorted by their own neighbors." Silence fell. Some board members shifted uncomfortably, while others avoided his eyes. The emotional weight was unbearable. The veteran, who had been ignored, fined, and humiliated, now stood taller than the entire board. The rehook slammed home. This wasn't just about property lines or plumbing, it was about dignity, and the HOA had already lost that battle. The HOA called an emergency hearing, but everyone knew it was the last stand. The president sat rigid in her pink blazer, hands trembling as residents packed the hall. Larry walked in slowly, Melissa filming from behind. He dropped a thick folder on the table. Every receipt for dues, every maintenance request ignored. The crowd murmured as he pointed at her. "You took their money and left me drowning in sewage." She snapped back, "You're destroying this community." Larry's reply cut like steel. "No, you destroyed it when you forgot what community meant." The confrontation was raw, both sides shouting, fingers stabbing the air, but the weight of truth was against her neck. Neighbors who had once whispered now raised their hands, trembling but resolute. All in favor of removal. The secretary's voice quivered as hands shot up, row after row. The pink-clad president tried to stop the count, waving her gavel wildly. "This is illegal. I am your authority." But Melissa live-streamed every second. By the time the tally was read, 42-6, the HOA president sat in silence. Her empire collapsed in front of her. Larry's chest heaved, tears streaking down his weathered face. The same community that had abandoned him now stood united. The twist was complete. The man they'd tried to break had just broken the system that preyed on him. When officials confirmed the removal, neighbors poured onto Larry's lawn, clapping his back, shaking his hand. The pink blazer hung abandoned on a chair, a symbol of arrogance stripped bare. Reporters arrived, microphones thrust forward. "How does it feel to win, Mr. McClellan?" He simply said, "Justice isn't a prize, it's peace of mind." Melissa uploaded the clip. It went viral within hours. Comment sections overflowed. "This veteran is a hero. HOA corruption exposed. Pink blazer downfall." The rehook hit hard. What started as one man's fight had become a nationwide rallying cry.
The repairs were finally done, this time on the HOA's dime. Larry sat in his living room, breathing easier, watching clean water flow where ruin once festered. Melissa brought over dinner, joking, "Dad, you're internet famous now." He chuckled, voice gravelly. "I'd rather just be left alone with my garden." Yet, as he stepped outside, dozens of neighbors were waiting, offering help with groceries, offering to mow his lawn. For years, he'd been isolated. Now, he was the heart of a community reborn. At the next annual meeting, the ex-president sat alone in the back, no longer draped in pink power. She avoided every eye, her fall from grace complete. Larry entered, cane tapping, oxygen tank hissing softly. He didn't gloat. He simply said, "I hope you remember what this feels like. Regret is heavier than any fine." The room went still. For the first time, the HOA wasn't feared, it was humbled. The payoff was undeniable. One veteran, once abandoned, had forced an empire of arrogance to its knees, and as he walked out into the sunlight, neighbors followed, not behind the board, but behind him.